Rejected, throwing away, affected. I don't know what to say. Ejected, cast out to the sea, disconnected. They didn't want me.
Welcome everybody to a brand new episode of Nicksmissal III. We have left the 90s and now we're in the 2000s. I'm Patricia and I'm here with Admin James.
I'm here, cool cats.
So today we're going to be discussing about one of the first Nickelodeon movies that was pitched to be released theatrically. We're going to be discussing about the 2001 Nicktoon The Fairly OddParents. When the show first debuted, it was like a massive hit that generated just as much views and fans as SpongeBob. But did you know that it was planning on having a theatrical movie around the early 2000s?
I actually found out about that not too long ago. According to Butch Hartman, on the forum on his site that he used to have, that there was actually plans for a Fairly OddParents movie, theatrical movie, to go ahead. It didn't due to the regime change, I think.
You're right. There was a change of management over at Paramount, which made the movie delayed and then eventually just canceled. He did plan on releasing a DVD port of it, but he claimed that it wasn't going to happen anytime soon, and about 15 years later, it still hasn't happened.
I think it's turned into the 2011 TV movie, sadly.
Just like the majority of the movies that we've discussed about on this miniseries, we have no idea what the script would have been about. Now, unlike the Ren and Stimpy movie and the Avro Monsters movie, there was a script for this, and Butch Hartman was all ready to go. But unfortunately, Paramount would not allow him to do it because the management was completely different from when he first started writing the script. So we do not know what the plot of the movie was going to be about. But it probably would have been around the time in which, around the time in which The Fairly OddParents was at its prime, like around the early to mid 2000s. I guess it kind of makes sense for Butch Hartman to want to release a theatrical movie of The Fairly OddParents because there were so many possibilities of where The Fairly OddParents could have taken its adventures. I mean, there have been so many TV movies of The Fairly OddParents that it would have made a lot of sense for it to decide to go into a theatrical run. I mean, let's see, we've had Abracatastrophe, we've had Schools Out, we've had Channel Chasers, we've had Fairy Idol, and then, of course, we had the live-action movies, and then, not to mention, there was the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour. What would you think that this movie would have been about? Do you think that maybe one of the TV movies that Butch Hartman did was going to be the theatrical movie, or do you think it was going to be something completely different?
Probably something completely different. I actually, I think this was around the time that, as you've said before, that The Fairly OddParents was pretty much at its popularity peak. And at one point, it was actually even more popular than Sponge, if you can can believe that.
Yeah, it's true. It was just as big as SpongeBob. Even though that I wasn't around with the whole huge Nickelodeon craze at this time, because I was already in high school, and I was getting into Invader Zim and a lot of the other older cartoons, and of course I started delving into anime. So even though I did know about the show's existence, and I did watch it occasionally, I wasn't in that whole, group of kids who was, like, obsessed about, what was going to be the most popular in, The Fairly OddParents or SpongeBob. But, yeah, the show was, like, hugely popular. It was everywhere. There were toys of it. There were video games. The episodes just kept coming out, and a lot of people were just quoting the lines and stuff like that, and yeah, the show was just everywhere. And, of course, the TV movies were really great. Like, a lot of people say that The Fairly OddParents had the distinctive record of having some of the best TV movies that Nickelodeon has ever had. And, for the most part, it's true when looking back on a lot of the TV movies that Nickelodeon would release. Like, Klasky Csupo had a lot of TV movies, and, let's see, there was, Danny Phantom had a TV movie, the My Life as a Teenage Robot had a TV movie. But, yeah, The Fairly OddParents had a lot of TV movies, and a lot of the earlier ones were great. even still to this day, a lot of people have fond memories of Channel Chasers and Abracatastrophe and Schools Out.
I have to be honest. I think it's actually quite sad that Fairly OddParents crashed and burned the way it did, because it actually did have a lot of potential in its earlier seasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right, but I guess this is what happens when a show, like the Fairly OddParents, goes for this long. Eventually, the humor does become a little bit stale, and not to mention that a good majority of the writers who worked on the Fairly OddParents left. Like, for example, Scott Fellows was a writer of the Fairly OddParents, and he left to do Ned's Declassified. And Steve Marmol was, like, one of the major writers of the Fairly OddParents and Danny Phantom. And he left around when Danny Phantom was, like, around its second or third season. The kind of humor that, you know, the Fairly OddParents was known for was, like, quick. It had a lot of gags and jokes. But if Gabe were here, he would probably just say that the Fairly OddParents relied really heavy on their formula. It's like, once you see one episode, as time goes on, a lot of it just feels the same. And I guess in the later seasons, it does kind of feel the same. With Timmy wishing for something, he wonders what could possibly go wrong, something does go wrong, and then he has to wish it back to normal.
I've actually thought about something. I'm looking through the Toon Zone posts in the past about Fairly OddParents, you know, like, once being very popular, but then people complaining about its formula. Guess what that actually sounds very similar to? Phineas and Ferb.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we talked about this on Nicksmissal II last year, in which, as soon as Phineas and Ferb started, you know, lasting a little bit longer, then the show did rely on its formula. You know, with, you know, Phineas and Ferb inventing something or traveling somewhere, and, you know, we had, you know, Perry stopping Dr. Doofenshmirtz, and, you know, people were just complaining about it's the same. And the Fairly OddParents has gotten to that point in which, yeah, they have to do so many things to keep itself relevant that it just makes the fan base really angry. The additions of Poof and Sparky, and then Chloe, and then the anti-fairies, and, you know, then the whole bending of the rules. It's just been going so crazy that people have just flat out gave up on the Fairly OddParents, and they're just wondering, like, who's watching this stuff nowadays?
I think, personally, Phineas and Ferb actually had a similar setback, because after its TV movie Cross the Second Dimension, that's when people started getting tired of it. And after Channel Chasers, people started getting tired of Fairly OddParents. The difference is that Phineas and Ferb hasn't ruined its characters or humor.
Exactly. And if you're wondering, the last episode of the Fairly OddParents was supposed to be the third Jimmy Timmy Power Hour. That was supposed to be the last episode of the entire series. But then Nickelodeon aired a couple of episodes after that, and then that was when the Fairly OddParents went on their hiatus for a whole year, and then they started churning out other episodes again to keep things interesting. Like, for example, if you remember the Fairly Odd Baby special when Poof was born, that was like one of the most viewed TV specials ever put in Nickelodeon. And not to mention, you know, they thought, you know what, let's see if we can do it again with Sparky and then with Chloe. Anyway, but we're just getting way off topic. Let's talk about the movie. So, again, you know, sorry that, sorry we don't know really a lot of information about this, but what do you think would have happened if a movie would have came out? I mean, seeing how the Fairly OddParents was such a huge show, I mean, I don't know. Do you think maybe, you know, it wouldn't have changed as much because the Fairly OddParents is still running? So do you think that the movie would have mattered on the quality of the Fairly OddParents?
It would depend on the time that it was released. If it was released at the time where basically it was at its popularity peak, then it would have probably been a success, and Nickelodeon would have probably tried to cash it in even further. Their mindset would be, to heck with Rugrats, we're going with the Fairly OddParents.
I guess so, but then the Fairly OddParents is already overtaken Rugrats at that point, because Rugrats had already lasted for over a decade, and people were already getting tired of it. I mean, SpongeBob and the Fairly OddParents pretty much took it over.
Pretty much.
But yeah, I mean, in my opinion, I think that if this movie would have came out, I think it would probably be looked the same way as the SpongeBob movie, in which, it was the last good thing that came out of it. But then again, I mean, how would the quality of the TV movies would have fared out?
Like, the difference between The Fairly OddParents and SpongeBob is that after SpongeBob released its movie, it pretty much became Nickelodeon's favourite song. So, basically cancelled The Fairly OddParents for a while.
Do you think this movie would have been successful in the box office? And do you think, it would have changed the way animation would be in cinema? Because in my opinion, I don't think so. I think it would just, prolong The Fairly OddParents even more. I mean, maybe not. I don't think it would have made that much of a difference, to be quite honest. I think we would have just gotten a really good movie, and then we would have gotten, maybe a second movie or something like that, but, or heaven forbid, maybe the live-action movies could have been theatrical.
Oh my God,
Oh man, it would have been the fun size of animated Nicktoons going live action, or The Last Airbender.
I think I'm gonna cry.
I don't. You know
gosh.
what? At this point, I wouldn't have been surprised because, with Nickelodeon just, churning out more seasons of shows that need to take a break or just need to be gone at this point. I don't know what they would have done if The Fairly OddParents would have happened. I mean, at the time of this recording, it's just been announced that a new SpongeBob movie's coming out. And the SpongeBob movie, the second one, had just came out less than a year ago. And they're thinking about doing another one.
Oh my gosh. I mean, in all honesty, as I've said before, I understand why people complained about Rugrats being milked, but it definitely wasn't as milked as SpongeBob. And that's saying a lot, considering that Nickelodeon pretty much did milk Rugrats.
Yeah. So
it seems like if they milk one property, they'll take another property and milk it even further.
Yeah. So, I mean, to be quite honest, I'm glad that this movie didn't come out because who knows how much more the Fairly OddParents would have been just 6 feet under into the ground, just, with Butch Hartman's reputation just basically just falling apart.
Well, it has actually fallen apart.
But even more,
anyway.
I mean, now we're not saying anything bad about what the movie would have been. I mean, I think the movie would have been brilliant. However, I think that, with the direction that Nickelodeon went to how they treated the Fairly OddParents, with all these additional characters and more episodes, just so they can be able to churn them out and have the kids watch something that isn't SpongeBob. Oh. I mean, we probably would have gotten more Fairly OddParents movies, just the same way that we're getting more SpongeBob movies. The first one would have probably been really good. Probably wouldn't have changed anything when it came to cinema or animation, but I think it would have been really good. The Fairly OddParents and SpongeBob were treated pretty much the same way, in which both of them had, gigantic fan bases, and they ran for a very long time. And, with people, they say that the SpongeBob movie was the last good thing from SpongeBob. For, people for the Fairly OddParents, they said that Channel Chasers or the Jimmy Timmy Power Hours were the last good thing of the Fairly OddParents, so...
I actually would disagree in terms of SpongeBob. I think SpongeBob was pretty much as good as the first seasons. Well, no, actually not as good as the first 3 seasons, but
you're
close.
trying to say it's as good as, the first movie.
It's in a different league.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, you're getting what I'm saying. It's I wish I could see this movie because I know it would have been really good, especially if it would have came out during the early 2000s. But I am so glad it doesn't exist because it probably just would have killed the Fairly OddParents even more. Churning out even more stuff for the Fairly OddParents than what we already have. More live action TV movies. More, theatrical movies that probably would have been getting worse and worse. And, and of course we have the additional characters that were added in. The episodes are getting less funny. The rules are being bended all the time. It's been getting a mess at this point. And, I mean, I don't know. I really don't have anything to say about this. I mean, I'm sorry that this is this is going to be a little bit of a shorter episode, but still, we don't know anything about it. We don't know what this...
I also, sorry for interrupting.
Go ahead.
Alright, I think I'm actually glad that the Phineas and Ferb theatrical movie wasn't released either. Now that you mention it, because it could have been pretty much the thing that would have killed the franchise for good and all.
Yeah, and the Phineas and Ferb series finale, where they had the time skip episode and they closed everything off in that great ending, that was the best thing that they could have done to end Phineas and Ferb.
I agree, and then the show will actually be remembered fondly rather than just basically being milked for the sake of being milked.
Exactly. Trust me when I say this. Like, in a few years from now, people will look back fondly on Phineas and Ferb. But as for The Fairly OddParents, if it continues to go in this direction, oh man, I mean, talk about a show that has been going way longer than it should have. Like, in my opinion, the show should have been canceled years ago.
It's only being kept alive because of the nostalgia for the earlier seasons, but that doesn't apply to the newer seasons.
They feel like two completely different shows at this point.
I mean, how the heck could Butch Hartman let this happen to his own creation?
Yeah, I guess it kind of makes sense like 10 years ago when he was working hard on Danny Phantom and he put a lot more of his time on it. Like, you can tell that he put a lot of time on Danny Phantom, especially the first 2 seasons. But season 3 is a bit of a debate because that was when Nickelodeon really wanted, Danny Phantom to be canceled, and they wanted him to continue on with The Fairly OddParents. It's like, oh, really? You want to continue with The Fairly OddParents, but you want to cancel Danny Phantom, a show that is, in my opinion, the more superior Nicktoon. I mean, a lot of people even say that Danny Phantom is Butch Hartman's magnum opus. But then again, this is from somebody who thought that Tough Puppy was a major disappointment.
Even Butch Hartman has actually acknowledged that people prefer Danny Phantom to Fairly OddParents. He even said so in one of his videos.
Yeah, and it's interesting that I do follow Butch Hartman on Facebook and Twitter, and the times that I have seen him do drawings, it's always been of Danny Phantom.
Exactly. I think basically he just wants to get back to Danny Phantom, and he doesn't want them to keep renewing the Fairly OddParents, but he can't say it because he's afraid of losing his job.
Let's just hope that Bunsen is a Beast will become a better show for him to focus more attention of instead of the Fairly OddParents. But from the synopsis that we were talking about over the past couple of months, it's gonna be like My Gym Partner's a Monkey, and to be quite honest, maybe it won't be good after all. I'm gonna hold my opinions and see how the show progresses, and hopefully it'll be good. And if not, then, I don't know. Let's just hope that... I mean, at this point, if he continues on like this, Butch Hartman is going to become the animation equivalent of Dan Schneider.
Oh my gosh, and Dan Schneider has pretty much a bad reputation enough as it is.
Yeah, thank God we're not doing a movie based off of any of Dan Schneider's work, because, oh my God, we'll be here all day.
It's sad because basically Dan Schneider does actually have talent. I don't understand why he's had such a creative burnout. Oh yeah, from creating so much shows.
Not only that, but from the shows that I've been seeing him do over the years, he's a one-trick pony. He does the same things over and over and over again. He's doing nothing new. He's been doing the same kind of shows that he's been doing over the past 10 to 15 years. I think he needs to do something completely different, otherwise he's gonna get overshadowed by all the other shows that have been coming out. But all of the other live action shows are crap, so it's Dan Schneider's shows are considered to be a godsend.
I'm going to say this: I don't understand why people have recently been nostalgic for iCarly when years ago they were bashing it, saying, "Oh, it was one of the worst Nickelodeon shows."
That's because it's been almost 10 years since iCarly came out, so now the nostalgia's kicking in.
Oh yeah, like with Hannah Montana. Oh my God! It makes me cringe that people are actually nostalgic about that, and I try to explain to them, but that's what made Disney Channel go downhill in the first place.
Okay, you know what? We're done here. We've gone way off topic. We have nothing to say. So yeah, that's it for this episode. Tune in next time as we're going to be discussing about another Nicktoon that would have had a theatrical movie but was cancelled due to Nickelodeon wanting the show to continue on longer than it should have. And it's a movie that people have been petitioning for over a decade, and finally, after 15 years later, it will be coming out as a TV movie. See you next time.
So why does no